You know, this kind of legislations actually play to the hands of the extremists in France, in Britain, everywhere. So we shouldn't actually give them ammunition to liberate what? How many women, I said, wearing the burqa? 2,000? To liberate 2,000 women, for example? And now the revolutions in the Arab world, it is most of it secular revolutions. Now, actually, the problem of Islamophobia will decrease, not increase, because, you know, you can see women in Tunisia, they are highly liberated, very sophisticated, wearing Gucci glasses, and, you know, so the same thing in Egypt, the same thing in other parts of the Arab world. So we have to encourage people by dialogue, not by legislations, by provocations, by actually, you must do this, you must do that. It is very provocative here.
Well, I think what this law has achieved is to turn perfectly harmless women into criminals, effectively. And the more you provoke people, the more you show aggression towards them, the more you radicalize them. So the law is very, very counterproductive.
We're just in the minute we've got left on this, Simon. Where do you stand on the Prime Minister raised the immigration debate again this week. Some people have said it perhaps it's not a coincidence that there's important elections coming up in a couple of weeks' time. There was a disagreement with the Liberal Democrats. Do you think that's significant, or do you think that's just a pre-election fuss?
In every country in the world, poor people worry about immigration. They worry about it for obvious reasons. There is no politician who wants to be taken seriously can sweep it under the carpet. You can have a kind of liberal consensus that we've got to be, you know, do the right thing by immigrants. That's fine. But to pretend you can't discuss it is ridiculous. I think the different question arises, which I think is going to become a much more important issue, certainly in Europe, is just crude nationalism and its relationship to citizenship. And I think when he says, as Bari says, I mean, when people come to your country, frankly, we expect you to make concessions to the country you've come to. You should learn the language. I personally think you shouldn't wear burqas. You should actually behave more or less as the people in your adopted country behave. And I think schools should go quite a long way down the road of in effect, teaching people about British culture and British religion as well. So I'm fairly tough on that. But I'm extreme liberal on banning things. I do not believe in banning things.
OK, well, let's move on, because Jude Law, Sienna Miller, the football commentator Andy Gray, and others are all embroiled in legal action against the News of the World, its parent company News International, and their boss Rupert Murdoch over allegations of phone hacking. Beyond the delight many people are taking in watching some pretty slimy operations being made public, how important is all this for Mr Murdoch, for journalism in the UK? What do you think of this?
Well, I think it's very serious for Mr Murdoch, all the more so because it seems largely out of his hands now. I mean, they may have wanted to draw a line under it last week by admitting liability in several cases, but now it's spun far beyond that, and we're hearing that it's not just 91 cases, perhaps, that it could be hundreds. And so there's also the possibility of a wider police criminal investigation into this. But call me a jaded journalist, but I guess in some ways I'm not surprised when I hear about tabloid journalists hacking into phones. You know? So what to me is actually being sort of lost in all this is the behavior of the police, because they were the ones who stinted on an investigation in the beginning. They're now being the ones accused of actually perhaps accepting payment for information. And this is what I actually find almost more worrisome than the intrusions of privacy that tabloid journalists have been committing for decades now.
I'm sure you're shocked to find that not everybody's entirely moral and ethical in British tabloid newspapers.
Well, I'm shocked for other reasons. I wish my name is there so I can make some money, honestly.
Well, you don't know. Maybe it is.
I wish, you know, I'm praying. You know, what's also shocking me, Murdoch is actually going to produce a television channel in the Arabic language. So are we going to say the same attitudes actually applying to our part of the world? Are we going to say telephone hackings in order to milk informations or private conversations, and, you know, of those you know, people, journalists, politicians? It is really degrading. I'm honestly shocked, because we in the Middle East, or the third world in general, we looked at the British media as you know, very ethical, very moral, very sophisticated. So I am shocked to see these kind of things. You know, people really will be shocked.
I'm detecting a degree of irony in this, but maybe Simon.
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm shocked by your naivety.
Yes, but
I'm appalled by your ingenuousness.
You edited the Times, and I'm sure it was never. But I mean, how? That's part of it, isn't it? Because now a lot of journalists are thinking, does it happen in my paper? Does it happen in the BBC? Does it happen elsewhere? I mean, if it happened here, people would be fine.
I mean, I agree with that. Give me a break. You know, this kind of thing has been going on for a very long time. I'm shocked by phone hacking. It's wrong. I'm shocked by attempt to cover it up. I'm shocked by the behaviour of the police, who would have known it all along, and the police themselves do it, so they're hardly amazed themselves. The only thing I'm not shocked by is 200 pictures of Sienna Miller and £100,000 demand from her lawyer. I just can't get, I cannot, it's wrong, but I can't take it seriously. It really is as old as the hills. They should just grow up. I mean, but very rich people claiming to have been damaged by some of their private life being exposed in the newspapers. What goes on anyway?
But they shouldn't be exposed, Simon. Well, even if they are rich people, you know, they are human, and you know, to go and dig for their private things and expose it, and,
no, it's
in order to
increase the circulation.
No, it's terrible, but it's not worth
£100,000. Terrible, but not. So we've got two jaded journalists. We've got one shocked. Where are you on this?
I think you can't have it both ways. You can't, you know, have all the publicity you want whenever it suits you, and when it doesn't suit you, you know, you start suing newspapers. I think it's slightly disingenuous there. I think what's slightly distasteful in all this is perhaps the scale of it all, the industrialization of the phone hacking. I mean, if it was to expose, I suppose, you know, serious political scandals now and then, I would say fair enough, but to do it day in, day out and actually institutionalize a private investigator to do so, actually giving him a full-time job, to do that day in, day out, and it's a bit...
There haven't been many scoops of the great variety, as far as we know, that have come from this, have they?
I mean, no. I mean,
but they do sell newspapers. So.
Well, yes, up to a point. But I do remember the Squidgy Gate tapes and all these, the intrusion on Prince Charles. And Princess Diana's things. I mean, they were being tapped all the time. They knew it was happening. They were very incautious. People objected to it appearing in the newspapers. Not many people objected to it having happened.
Yeah, but you know, we in the newspaper business, actually, we are facing a very, very tough time. You know, the competition is huge. The internet, the satellite television, the Twitter. You know, so but you know, we shouldn't turn to immoral, actually, methods in order to raise our distribution. We have to look something else. I know we are in trouble. I'm editor of a daily newspaper. I know we are facing a huge competition, but you know, I wouldn't turn to phone hacking simply because I don't have the money anyway.
It must have.
But Barry's going to be bishop, I can see.
Bishop Barry, he was an Ayatollah, he said earlier.
I don't know if phone hacking itself happens in the United States. Obviously, paying, you know, tabloids paying for interviews, paying for information, that certainly happens, going through people's trash. What certainly concerns me about this particular scandal, though, is not Sienna Miller or Jude Law, but it's hacking into the government ministers. I mean, you could get into serious water there.
Let's leave it there. That's it for Dateline London for this week. We'll be back next week at the same time. Do join us. Goodbye.